a poncho. You were given a little card that says who you are. So for the sake of this piece, everyone here should pretend that your name is Ernesto and you are 14 years old, and you are going to be the brother of the actor who's welcoming you into this space. So this young man welcomes you and he's making coffee and he says, hey, Alexander, will you get the sugar from over there? And hey, Fabian, will you bring over the coffee? And everyone is busy to do what you normally do in this situation, to help each other finish the process. And when it's over, this young man, he says, I'm so glad you came because I have really important news to share with all of you. After thinking about it for a long time, I've made the decision. Tomorrow morning at 5 a.m, I am leaving this village. I am leaving this life. I'm going to the mountains and I'm going to join the guerrillas. And he wants to explain why, but of course, he's a young man, so his arguments are not sophisticated. He is not going to use big words, and he's not going to persuade maybe the person who's participating in this year of 2023. But he does a good job of making it clear how enthusiastic he is. And in part because he'll be leaving together with Maria, the guerrilla commander who is there to recruit him. And Maria is very beautiful. When he finishes explaining all of this, he turns to you. And remember, he can tell that you are supposed to be an actor in this production as well, even if you're just a participant. He turns to you and he says, Ernesto, will you join me? You have to read this line yourself. And when you answer, the card contains the line of dialogue that you are going to give in return. And this line of dialogue is, what would Father say? This young man, he's very tough with you. He says, why don't you ask him? He's buried outside our house. Who do you want to join? Do you want to join Father? Do you want to stay here for the slow death or the fast death? Or do you want to come with me? Sure, it will be difficult, but we will finally be free. We will finally be part of writing a new chapter. And instead of asking every day what will happen to us from forces beyond our control, we will become the forces beyond control. What do you think is attractive for you and your legacy? I myself am not trying to make a propaganda video for an organization, but I want to create the experience of what it would be like for the people that were faced with that choice, when their family members or friends or an attractive woman was giving them the choice to stay or to go, to continue one day that looks like the last one, or to make a new kind of day. I'm sure most Colombians have not faced this choice personally, but I think every Colombian has at least sometime wondered what it was really like. And in that way, I'm using a tourist business not only to educate foreigners who are interested in the history and culture of Colombia. I'm hoping that it is also a way to show Colombians themselves how to talk about these issues that don't really get spoken about in polite company. I myself have experienced that the older a Colombian is, the more resistant they are to talking about their involvement in the years of conflict. And the wealthier they are, the more proud they are of never having been part of anything ever. They're not involved. And it's an interesting thing to compare with the younger people, most of whom are seriously involved in anything related to the conflict. But some of them wonder, why don't my parents speak of their grandparents? Whatever happened to the brother of my mother, who I can see in early photographs, but they're not talked about these days? Or they wonder, what were the compromises being made when so much money was coming in from a strange source, when suddenly there were new cars and parties and alcohol and people behaving in free and loose ways? Surely these things impacted the society in general and not just a small number of people. How can we, and by we, I mean everyone who's human, how can we talk about this with an eye towards the future, a future of peace, where all the different sides can find a way to live in harmony and not nurse in their heart the injustice of the past. So Fabian, am I being a good recruiter?
Yes, sir. I think you are. But then again, that's a question of opinion. What do you think, guys? ¿Cómo les parece este proyecto? What do you think about this project?
For me, it's fantastic because it's a different way to show the other people how is our culture, how is our history, and yeah, it's another way to teach other people about our lives, and yeah, I think it's a good idea to try to show our lifestyles or something like that. Yeah, it's a good, very interesting way to show or to entrepreneur in this sphere.
And I think that we are already tired of thinking about the conflict. Why don't we together feel about the conflict? Feel, not think. Because it's not something that you rationalize. It's something that you have to sometimes just show a picture. I guess that's going to be one of the things that maybe you as a visitor can come here and join us in the pain that we suffered. If I can show you a picture of my cousin who was killed. And that's the truth of it to me. And then if I can transmit that to you, we're feeling the same thing.
I consider a passionate idea to look for the history about the conflict in the first font or in the first person, because people or other people who lives in the small towns, for example, Cauca, for example, in this case, Bajo Cauca, for example, these people is really different. The expression or the feelings is redundant, but the feelings in these people is different that the story or the journalist try to say, because every way the journalist try to express the idea about the conflict is obviously adding or plus the political opinion or partial opinion, right? So if at the moment, for example, we live in the left government, is different than when we are governed with another kind of government. So when you really look for this sign or these experiences for the people who lives in the region, you really expand your mind, you open your eyes, and you discover the real situation, because you can surprise because the conflict is 50 years ago, so it's practically 2 generations. So people is used to be live in this kind of life. So your experience when you try to interview this kind of people is really different, and is very enrichment for your life.
All right, so I guess I will continue to hear more from Charles. If he continues to join us, we can ask him more questions. And I don't want to use more of our time, but to read, because that's what we came to do. But thank you, Charles, for introducing us to the way that you're thinking about this, and it's innovative, and it's a pleasure to have you here. And thank you for contributing to like Juan Carlos says, to open our minds. to.
I want to just add one small thing, which is for anybody who comes here from the United States and many other countries, it would be fair to say that whatever has happened in Colombia is also because of the cooperation of the people and governments from other parts of the world. Who gave so much money? Who supplied such a market for your exports? Everything that has happened here is with the active participation of other countries. And this is a fair thing to recognize. You will tell me, Fabian, if you want me to read or to do anything else, or if I should just hang back and listen.
Oh, wait, we're going to read together. You're going to be part of it. Okay. So we're just going to improvise. So be ready to receive. That's it. Be there. Okay. So let's continue now with the reading. Thank you very much again, Charles, for telling us about this beautiful project. And I wish you well on, bringing it to fruition, man. And if anybody can contribute to this or feels like they want to be involved, just contact Charles. I'll leave his contact in our group. We have many more people than these here. It's because today I had to change the schedule that we don't have the full group here, but they're all going to know about this. And this is being recorded on YouTube. So I hope it's okay. And then they're going to see the part that I recorded. I didn't record the whole of it. That's my, that was my mistake. But now let's continue then. And all right, guys, so let me share the screen. And we were here the last time that we were together. Okay. We were here and there's Charles Cherry. Can you read again for us, please? This verse. And you need to open your microphone, please. You need to turn on your microphone. Yeah, maybe swipe and come back.
Yeah, it was
Perfect. Beautiful.
Okay. There's no chance I'm going to get stuck watching over some great grandchild I hardly even knew.
Exactly. So this is Wimpy Kid when he goes to heaven, right?
Right. The only thing that will make it fun is if I have the power to punish descendants whenever they do something annoying.
Like zap.
Because
Like, what was he doing that was so annoying?
Good question. I don't know.
And people, if you want to participate, please turn on your cameras and your microphones, everybody. Don't be shy. I don't know why you start turning your cameras off. What is this? Come on.
Molesto.
¿Cómo?
Molesto.
¿Qué estaba haciendo? Sí, pero ¿qué estaba haciendo para ser considerado annoying? Este tipito al que le tiraron el rayo.
Fastidioso.
¿Por qué estaba annoying o fastidioso? ¿Qué era lo que estaba haciendo? What was he doing? You can say it in Spanish. Lo pueden decir en español. ¿Qué estaba haciendo?
Sacando mocos.
Oh, sí.
Sacando mocos. Exactly.
Sí.
Sacando mocos. That's what I do when I'm in slow traffic. I'm sorry. Okay. I think it's okay to do it when you're in slow traffic. What else do you do?
Annoying?
Annoying is fastidioso, cansón.
No, pero ¿cómo
grosero.
se diría en inglés sacando mocos?
Oh, picking his nose. He was picking his nose.
Okay.
Picking his nose. Yeah. That was it. All right. Okay, and now we turn to a fresh new page. And Charles, I'm gonna start to make a difference between you two guys. I'm gonna call Charles Cherry Chuck because we know him as Chuck. And Charles Lechner is gonna be Charles. Charles, you're gonna be the model, and then other people will read after you. Okay, so you read the first page right here.
Recently, Mom told me it's not just Nana who's watching over me. It's all my relatives who've passed away. I kind of wish she hadn't told me that, because now when I copy off of Alex Arruda's paper during a spelling test, I feel a lot more guilty about it.
Ooh, look at all those people judging you. Okay. Now, that's what this here means, to copy off of somebody. That's exactly what you can see right there in the picture. Just let me highlight this. Let me use my highlighting tool there. Beautiful. Here showing copy off of, and that is what he's doing right now. He's just looking at what she's doing, and then she's making a copy of it during a test, which is very dishonest. And look at all these people judging from above. Anyway, so let's read again. But before we read, any questions or any language that you want to bring up because it's interesting, or you want to discuss it, or you want to know what it means, etc. Or it's easy. Everything here is out. Super easy.
What is the meaning of more guilty?
Where's that? More guilty.
Guilty, yeah.
Yeah. A lot more guilty. Just simply guilty. What is guilty, Chuck?
Oh, feeling culpable, or feeling like you're caught of doing something wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something wrong. And then if you're the guilty one, that means you know you did it. Okay? Guilty. Guilty as charged. Okay. So a lot more guilty is like you feel not just guilty, but very guilty, because, you know, everybody has you in a plain view, just seeing what you're doing. They're not guessing. They're looking from above. Oh, look at him.
When you want to regret about it something wrong made it before.
Yeah, when you regret something, you feel guilty. You're right. Very good. And pay attention to the preposition as well. That's very interesting. To be guilty about something. Feel guilty. Feel guilty about something. Now, another interesting thing is this. Okay. This is common, right? Whose? How about this? Who have passed away, right? Who have passed away. That's interesting, right? I mean, like, this is common, whose, but how about this one? Who have passed away. Who have passed away. Can you pronounce this whole phrase again, please, Charles?
To read from the beginning?
No, that just this highlight phrase right here.
Right. It's all my relatives who have passed away.
Who have, right? It's a real quick who have passed away. It's a very soft v, very soft, who have passed away. Especially because the next word begins with a consonant, so you don't need to overemphasize the v. You don't need to who have passed away. You don't need to do that. So great. Can you read it one more time just to savor the deliciousness, please? Thank you.
It's all my relatives who have passed away, and I will offer a cheat for anyone who is lazy.
Please.
You could say, it's all my dead relatives. So remember,
good job. Thank you.
Every time something is difficult, you can probably say it in a faster, more rude way.
Exactly. All right, more direct. That's right. Pays to be more direct. Okay, watching over me. Okay, always, like those phrasal verbs or phrases with verbs like watching over someone, paying attention, taking care of, making sure that, okay? And I like the indecision here. I love this kind of, right? That always attracts me, draws me, kind of wish. Okay, kind of wish she hadn't told me that. Good. All right, I think this is good. Who wants to read?
I'm gonna try.
Go ahead, Eddie.
Recently, Mom told me it's not just Nana who's watching over me. It's all my relatives who passed away. I kind of wish she hadn't told me that, because now when I copy of Alex Arruda's paper during a spelling test, I feel a lot of more guilty about it.
All right. Couple of things just popped up. Number one, try to do this, Eddie. When you see a word beginning with an S and a consonant, try to attach that S back to the word before. So you're gonna say as, spelling, a spelling test.
A spelling test.
Spelling, a spelling test.
During a spelling test.
Yeah, and something funny is that normally the UI is not read like we do it in Spanish. We is guilty. And that's funny because a lot of people were asking me when I first got to the States at some point in my past, somebody was asking me like, hey, how about that Rene Higuita? I was like, I don't know who that is. And it was Rene Higuita. So there's that thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, you don't say guilty, you say guilty. Anyway, so let's continue. And here's what he was cheating off of the other guys, Alex Arrudas. This is what is going on here. And this is going to be read by Chuck.
Okay. I want to know how many generations this thing goes back. I'm fine with a few hundred years or so, but if it's my whole family tree all the way to the beginning, that's a totally different story.
Any questions, guys?
Yeah. One question in years or so.
Or so, okay, that or so. Charles, what is that?
Or so?
Yeah, why do we use that?
Well, sometimes we want to be vague on purpose. We don't
Vague.
want someone to ask us, well, did you mean 200 or 300? We want to make sure you understand that it doesn't matter exactly how many years it was.
Good, so you're vague on purpose.
Yes.
And vague means
English,
vago, o sea que no se hace entender con claridad, pero adrede, con propósito. 100 years or so. Maybe you also show disinterest, right? You also show like, oh, I don't care. It's not important. 100 years or so. Who cares? Who's counting the years? ¿A quién le importa?
Yeah,
Anybody was trying to say something, right?
Me, teacher.
Yeah.
Hi. Goes back.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yes, I like that. And that is going to be explained by Chuck Cherry. Goes back. What is that? Goes back.
Let's return. Let's go back. Let's start over. Let's.
This goes back here, I think is different, right?
I think it means to return further back.
I want to know how many generations this thing goes back. Like how many generations this thing has lasted,
Yeah.
how far into the past it goes, right?
Yes. Good idea.
Like, for example, when you say, hey, Chuck and I go back, what, like
10.
how long, brother? How long?
Something like repeat or for something for try to say how many generations this thing lived this before.
It's like how many generations this thing, how many years of history does this go? I mean, or something like that, to that effect. Like, like truthfully, Chuck, how long do we go back?
How far back do we go? Maybe 10 years.
10 years.
So, to go back is to think back that far, to figure out when it started.
Yeah, history of so many years, maybe.
Yeah,
Something like that.
I mean generations.
Anything to add there, Charles? Would they go
Nothing.
back?
No, it's good.
Yeah, I think it's when you're talking about the history that people share, maybe, I guess. Like when you're talking about the armed conflict, how many years does this goes back? I
Yes,
guess. How many years does this go back?
That's right. That's right. It's I would say the way that this phrase exists does not conform to regular grammar. It's a special phrase that means it's part of the history, but in a non-specific way.
Right. Interesting. Do we have anything like that in Spanish, by the way? ¿Tenemos algo así en español? Como cuántas generaciones recorre. Maybe recorrido. Maybe that's what it means. El recorrido is to go back.
¿Cuántas
Just
generaciones se remontan? ¿Cuántas generaciones han vivido?
remontar. Yeah.
Remontar.
Remontar, recorrer. Yeah. Because clearly we don't have a phrase like this because we don't really have phrasals in Spanish. So we have dedicated verbs for everything. We don't have the Lego function like you do in English. You guys, you're very smart. I mean, I think it's a matter of sophistication. You just figure it out. Is we have one little word and another word, and we integrate them, and it makes a whole new word. It doesn't exist in Spanish that way. I mean, for your, I guess for out of curiosity, I think that to me, English is like a game of Legos. It's like playing with Legos. While Spanish is like playing with Play-Doh. You just gotta roll it out, and then you take your pieces and you start to assemble them, but you have to roll it out first, like from a root to, I mean, and via affixation, you just, like you create new words, like rolling it out. Okay, so anyway, very interesting. Who wants to read?
I can try.
Me, teacher.
Go ahead. Oh, who spoke first?
Okay, go ahead.
Me?
Nancy,
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Nancy then.
I want to know how many generations these things goes back. I'm fine with a few hundred years or so, but if it's my whole family tree all the way to the beginning, that's a totally different story.
Interesting. I recently asked ChatGPT how many generations do we go back, and was very vague about it, but told me that more or less 80,000. Anyway, thank you very much. That was great reading, Nan. And moving on. And this page by Charles.
I mean, if I've got relatives from caveman times watching over me, those guys are probably going to be pretty confused by what I do on an average day. Bleep, borp, blap.
And continue.
To be honest, I'm not comfortable with all these people looking over my shoulder. If my relatives are really watching me every time I step out of the shower or taste my earwax, it's going to be pretty awkward when we reunite later on. I think this boy has discovered a major hole in the logic of religions.
But you know what, like actually, thank you for that analysis. That was refreshing, because you know what I focused on? Tasting your earwax, because I've never done it.
I want to say,
anybody here, be truthful, be honest. ¿Alguna vez han comido cera de oído? We're curious by nature, right?
Everybody raise your hand.
We're Homo sapiens. That means that we know because, we experience things. Never. I've smelled it.
I smell, but no.
Me too.
It's
I've smelled it, but I've never tried it. I guess I was repelled by the smell.
After a smell, I don't dare.
Exactly. I think that you can anticipate, oh, this is going to be bitter. Don't like it. Interesting. Okay, good conversation, right? Very intelligent conversation. Charles might be like, I don't know. I think I'm dumbing it down now. All right, so let's analyze some of this language. What do we have here? Anything interesting? Nothing interesting, right? I'm like, it's all plain as the nose in your face. Okay, but however, I want to say something.
One.
On an average day, I know that you know all the words. You can even remember that it's on average, not in average. Cool, like it. But once again, let's try to confine the whole phrase to memory. I mean, like that, just attach it to our memory, to our hard disk. So next time we say it just like that, like just memorize this phrase. On an average day, I eat Choco Krispies. On an average day, I take my kids to school and all this, like try to integrate it into your speech. I think that's what I'm trying to suggest.
It's not right to say I usually do it.
Exactly. But like what Charles says, sometimes you can say it simpler. But yeah, in our case that we're learning the language, probably simpler is one way, but then we can learn other ways just to be nice and nimble, to be very stretchy.
Is on and average.
Always on an average day.
It's not in.
You're going to say.
Like to point out something important about the logic of this piece. If we have caveman ancestors, relatives, you have to remember that they have many millions of ancestors. So the chances that they're looking at you when you're eating your earwax is very, very small.
Very interesting. And I'm I just love transitions, and especially the conversational ones, to be honest. Can't get enough of them. I love to collect them. To be honest, I like that. Doesn't really reveal anything new, but okay, it's cool. I like it. To be honest. There. Anything else that attracts your attention besides the wax?
We use many times this expression in the vignettes when you try the make introduction of any speech or any sentence, because is try to focus the attention of the people.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yes. You signal that you're going to say something important, crazy, whatever, surprising in the next bit of what you're going to say. You create anticipation. To be honest, it's like, oh, okay, so you were not being honest before. Okay, cool. Relatives are really watching me. Okay, and again, pointing out the obvious that it's a game of Lego. Step out of the shower. In Spanish es salir, right? Step out of the shower. Right? But ain't that cool? Stepping out. Step is step. You would normally categorize that as a noun, right? Most likely. Noun, step, como un paso. But then you have step out, which is salir. It is just the addition of the out that makes it salir. It's interesting to me.
Phrasal verb.
And then again, all the phrases again. Legoed. Later is okay. Reunite later is fine. But I think that it leaves a sense of like you left something out if you don't finish with that extra syllable for the extra beat. Because I guess English is beat driven. It's very rhythmic. It's a rhythmic language. It's a language of contrast. It's a language of stresses. So people that speak English need to have that on at the end, because it helps to kind of, reach that point of, okay, we're complete now, later on, instead of just later. But I don't know. That's my perception of things. I think that you always need that extra beat. But what do you think, Charles and Chuck, about that phenomenon that you can say simply later, but you prefer to say later on, and I guess that you hear more later on? Had you ever thought about it?
Actually, no, but I do think it adds that little bit of drama, like you talk about, just a little bit more expressive.
I like that too.
I will say something that will be irritating, which is that English has a very formal structure, and it includes an old rule that you would never end a sentence with a preposition. and on is a preposition. So when people do it anyway, they're often trying to signal that they're speaking like regular people talk. They're moving away from literary English or formal and correct English.
Interesting.
And they're adding it as a way of toning down the language and making it seem softer. Because he could have just said, when we reunite later. So what is the purpose of that extra word? It is to lower the language a teeny bit.
Interesting. So it's a way kind of the starting of a revolution right there, right? You have something like, okay, like that, you know, too posh, too correct. Later on, great analysis. I want to say that everything language is open to interpretation. I don't think that there's someone with the name or the stature to say language is this. Okay, we have created, and it's obviously, I think it's just a marketing presence that we have learned to accept in modern times, and is that there's some kind of person who is the true expert among experts. And if that person says it's black, then everybody jump and everybody, you know how it is. Okay. And so I think that is cool that we have a moment like this, people, everybody here sharing with Chuck and Charles and all of us, where we can become creative around language, because language is our identity. Take language away, we're just another animal species. But then we can discuss things here through that magic eye of, you know, like creativity. Creative. Just bring your own impromptu solutions to problems that we suggest. What about that? Isn't that cool? I think that's super cool. Or like the French would say, très cool. Let's continue. Last page, because, you know, it's Friday. Right, Charles? Are you going out?
No.
Friday.
No, you don't go out Fridays. I mean, today's Thursday, sorry.
Yeah.
See if you were paying attention.
We're getting our attention.
Poor guy. He wants Friday. All right. So Thursday, guys. Today's Thursday. Chuck.
Thursday, we have the book fair at school this week. And this morning, Mom gave me $20 to spend. I thought I was allowed to pick whatever I wanted. But it turns out Mom expected me to spend the money on books.
Yeah. Anything here, guys? Oh, by the way, become collectors of prepositions, because in either Spanish or English, they're very unpredictable. We have prepositions of time, of place, and of movement. And outside those three areas, there's just a whole collection of words that are just attached to other words, like little appendixes, and they don't mean really anything. Like, okay, we have the word spend. Don't forget that it's always used with on. Okay? Just don't forget that. You spend money on, you spend your time on people you love.
Another is turns out.
Okay, yeah. Turns out. I like that one because that one is very eventful. I like that. What is okay, let's hear from Charles. Charles, what do you think about turns out? What does that evoke? What does that take you back to? Turns out.
I don't know if it evokes anything, but it's a casual way to say that the conclusion of something was different than what I thought at first.
Ah, okay. So this has to do with the unexpected.
Yes.
The surprise.
Yes.
Romantic.
It is separating what you thought would be from what it actually was.
Cool. What do you think, Chuck?
Oh, I agree. I couldn't say it better.
What is something that turned out a certain way for you?
It turned out that it was difficult for me to learn Spanish.
And for us, English, right? I mean, like,
The,
it's
the,
rough.
the whole center, the whole phrase, the whole sentence is not have the translation in Spanish is word by word, because if you said I thought I was allowed to pick whatever I wanted, if you try to translate in Spanish, it's something like yo pensé que yo iba a permitirme o me estaba permitido y en Spanish, in normal Spanish.
Oh, okay.
I don't say that.
This passive phrase
Exactly,
here,
exactly.
to be allowed to. Yeah.
When you try the translate or the look for the meaning, simply say yo pensé que podía.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point, which takes me back to something very interesting. I don't know if this was the point here while we're discussing this, but the grammar rules are prefabrication post language. And what I think is the real driver of language is use. And there are different forms of use in Spanish and English, and sometimes they just don't go together, or we cannot anticipate one in terms of the other. Like we never would use the phrase was allowed to as a passive phrase in Spanish, ser permitido hacer algo. Doesn't make much sense in current use. I don't know my ancestors, but then current use, no, nobody would say that. I would simply say podía here. I would use a variety of can, could, que yo podía comprar lo que quisiera, right? And okay, here, we're gonna test Charles first. Charles, how would you say in Spanish turns out?
I have no idea.
Guys, anybody? Chuck?
No, I guess not.
Anybody here?
It's like
Spanish community.
Resulta.
como resultó.
Resulta que
Yes.
As
Resulta.
it happened.
Yeah. Any other? I'm thinking. Y resultó que. I guess that we would use different transitions, like y finalmente, but that wouldn't necessarily transmit the idea that this was surprising. But yeah, anyway. Y finalmente, no. Resultó.
I'm just thinking about the fact that in English, you could remove this phrase. You could say, I thought I was allowed to pick whatever I wanted, but mom expected me to spend the money on books. That would be
I think that
grammatically correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is the deal? Why do we have to put in more words?
Drama.
You know, drama. Just drama. That's all it is. Turns out. And the funny thing is, it turns out that in Spanish, we use it also in the present, despite the fact that we're talking in the past. Mom expected, I wanted. We're surrounded by past tense, and then we switch over to present. Turns out, not turned out. Turns out is more common in conversation. Y lo mismo en español. Ve, yo estaba allá y ya compré los tiquetes y resulta que llega el otro bobo a vendérmelos a mitad de precio. So I was there buying the tickets. I had already bought the tickets. Turns out this idiot just pops up and offers me tickets at half the price. Turns out, resulta. And with that, we close our edition of today's reading session.
have the last
with
question.
Charles and Chuck.
Fab,
Yeah.
I have the last question.
Oh, the last question.
Why are the words to and books is in capital letters?
Ah, good point.
Drama.
Drama. Drama. That's what it is. It's just to signal that you need to place more emphasis on those words. I thought I was allowed to pick whatever I wanted, but it turns out mom expected me to spend the money on books. Of all possible things, books.
At the book fair.
I remember that one day my mom gave directions to my aunt and said, I'm going to take the kid out. We're going to go buy him a toy because it's his birthday. My mom gave clear directions to my aunt, no toys, clothing. And I was so offended. But remember that you choose to be offended, okay? Don't be offended, guys. Choose to be offended or choose not to be offended, okay? We're not part of woke America here. You can make any comments and feel like you can get away with it. It's Colombia, guys. After all, it's chaotic, and that's why we love it, okay? Charles and Chuck, thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege like nothing else. Thank you very much.
Gracias. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Chuck,
Charles.
everybody.
Thank you.